According to the dash in this car, the end of the world has arrived. Let's find out if that's truly the case. Let's get started. So welcome back to the Wizard Shop, guys. This is a 1996 Lexus LS400, and we all know from previous videos that I've done on these cars that they are legendary. They are one of the most bulletproof cars in existence of history. They are very, very good. I rarely get to work on these because there's rarely anything wrong with them. But this time around, if you turn on the engine and go to driving, it has traction light, ABS light, check engine light. There's all kinds of warning lights on that the uninitiated automotive person would say, oh my God, there's some major expensive things broken on this car. I better get it to the shop, which is true. You should get it to the shop to find out why. But let's do some investigating and see, is it really that bad? Let's take a look around this thing real quick, and then we'll hop into the interior and connect our little scan tool. So here's the front end of this nice LS400. If I remember right, this one has a lot of miles on it, but it's still going strong. And if you think it looks kind of like a Mercedes-Benz from the 90s, that is correct. That is what they were aiming for. Literally, they were aiming like a bullseye target, like, we're going to take you down, Mercedes-Benz. It is just as nice as a Mercedes, but way, way more reliable. This has a two-tone gold and champagne. Is that right, Mrs. Wizard?
Sure, we'll go with those. They sound like nice colors.
Okay. It does have a little scrape back here. This is a daily driver. They're not trying to make this into a museum piece. They're just enjoying it and using it to go to work or whatnot. It does have the gold script for the logo and also the badges on the back. This again have a Mercedes look on the back. Wheels and tires are good. Everything really is in pretty good shape on this car. Let's hop on into the interior. So I've got the key on, and we can see that it has 235,000 miles on it. And there you go, you can see it on the odometer, 235 and 280. I've driven this one before. It's been in the shop quite a while back for some other issues, I think when they first bought it, but this thing drives like a new vehicle, even with all those miles. So we've got the key on. Let's find out why all the warning lights are on. I'm not going to start the engine right now. I have a couple things unhooked. But when you start the engine, it'll have the check engine light, ABS, traction control, all kinds of crazy warning lights on. Let's see.
It sounds like a BMW.
It kind of does. Let's see what it is. So I've got my launch Creator CRP 123. I call it the crap 123, even though it's not been crap. This is in our Amazon affiliates, link in the description below. You can purchase these. They're not that expensive and very handy. As you can see, P0304 cylinder 4 misfire detected. So that's the only code that it has, is cylinder 4 misfire, and that's not surprising. Let's head out under the hood. So we do have this little handy dandy tool that clamps on to the hood struts to hold the hood up. So many of these are failed, especially with this one. It's got almost 250,000 miles on it. It's not surprising. And also, what's not surprising is every time I've mentioned to a customer, hey, 50, 100 bucks, we can put some new struts on and fix this problem, and they're like, I don't open the hood. I don't even care about that. No, I'm not spending the money. So to say, well, while you're here, Wizard, you should change those out. That's not our choice. It's the customer's choice. And usually the answer is, no, I don't want to spend the money. So that's what these are for. And you don't have to worry about clamping on it and damaging them because they're already dead. So it doesn't matter. So I've got a lot of things disconnected already. These actually have little distributors underneath these covers. We're going to get down to those here in a minute. Take this cover out of the way. And then I have hoses and everything disconnected. It's kind of cumbersome, but this whole unit here will come off in one piece. There's that. Get that out of the way. I'll get this little air filter housing and all this stuff out of the way. The reason why I've taken all this stuff apart, let me put this little guy back on, is that our spark plug wires, you can see here, they're little thin wires that has one ignition coil, just like the old days. There's not a coil for every spark plug. And they run two little distributor caps that are here and here. And then spark plug wires go underneath this plate, and you can't get to it without taking the intake snorkel off. And down here. So there's our little cover plate out of the way, and you can see there's a little distributor. So here we can see that the timing belt was done at 225,000 miles. So it is not time for a timing belt, luckily. Very likely that is the second timing belt on this car, and I won't be surprised if it makes it to the third, and possibly the fourth. This car is bulletproof. It is a very good car. So here's our little distributor. So you see there's 4 spark plug wires. There is 1 coil wire. Those run to each of the spark plugs, and on this car the firing order is 2, 4, 6, 8. On the 1UZ FE, our code showed cylinder 4 misfire. So let's pull this one out. So I removed the spark plug. I didn't have my special handy dandy spark plug socket handy because someone in the shop has borrowed it and didn't put it back. So I just loosened it up and used a magnet and fished it out. Looks like a fairly new plug, but one thing that we would do is swap 4 and 6. So we're going to do that now. So here we have plug number 6. And one thing I can see right off the bat is this plug number 4 has a much wider gap, like it was improperly gapped. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it's literally almost double the gap. So I will quickly adjust the gap on these. I'm also still going to swap the plugs, and then what you would do is start the engine, see if the codes come back, and now is it showing a code for a different cylinder like number 6. And if it does, you know that you got a bad plug. So let me get this one gapped real quick and I'll put them back in. So I got the plug swapped, I readjusted the gap, and that seems to have solved the problem. I put everything on temporarily and plugged it in just enough for it to run, and I monitored for misfires, and it's doing fine. The complaint was occasional misfire at idle or under load, and obviously all the warning lights on the dash. So it showed a cylinder 4 misfire. We were able to remove the plug. I compared it with another one, and I seen the gap was much bigger. It should be. And what happens with that is it can run just fine, and really it does okay until there's either at idle or under part throttle. There's a very heavy load on the ignition system, and then it starts missing out. That's the thing with Toyota vehicles, 96 and newer especially, is if there's a misfire in the engine, it could be just a bad plug or a bad coil. It's really not that big of a deal. I mean, it runs a little rough, and you really do need to get it fixed, but it's not catastrophic. But the way that they get your attention is they start turning on all kinds of warning lights. So the ABS control module, which also does traction control, receives a message from the computer, the main engine computer, that says, hey, there's a misfire. And then the ABS module says, well, then I can't do my job, so I'm throwing up the warning light and the traction control light. And the engine says, okay, good, I'm going to also throw up my check engine light. And now you have all these warning lights on. It's really easy to be misleading to someone who doesn't understand how the Toyotas work. They'll start scanning for ABS codes, pulling wheel speed sensors, doing all this stuff. You must have something wrong with your ABS system, when in fact, there is 0 wrong with the ABS system. If you go into that module, it'll say, there's a problem in the ECM. That's it. You go check the ECM, it says, oh yeah, cylinder 4 is misfiring. That's all it was all along. So if we would have done the swap with the spark plugs and nothing happened, it's still in cylinder number 4, then you know it's not a problem with the plug. It might be a spark plug wire. It could be the distributor cap has an issue with cylinder number 4 contact. It could be that there's a vacuum leak at cylinder number 4. It could be an injector not firing very well anymore at cylinder number 4. It can be valve issues, an intake or exhaust valve, a low compression in that cylinder. It could be a host of a whole bunch of things. So this is why I really don't diagnose people's cars over the phone or through email. I just don't. Because I get a lot of messages like this, or people call and say, hey, I've got a cylinder 4 misfire. What is it? What's wrong with my car? Over the phone, I want you to fix my car. No. There's literally like 5 or 10 things that could be wrong here. And I don't have time to go back and forth with email with you. If you count up the time, I could lose 5 hours out of the shop. It's just not something I do. So recapping, the plug did fix it, but if it was a cracked ceramic or porcelain insulator or something bad with the plug like that, which I've seen before, then the problem will follow to any cylinder you put that plug in. I could take it from number 4 and put it on number 7. And now I'll have a misfire on number 7. That's how you know, well, the plug itself is bad. If one is bad from a cracked insulator, you just replace that one. But if you pull it out and seen that it's physically worn from age, the electrodes are literally melted almost, then it's time to do a tune-up on all the plugs. On modern cars, we have ignition coils on each cylinder. Sometimes just the coil is bad. You can swap coil 2 and 4 and find out it was just a bad coil, but the plugs are fine. It can get very complicated very quickly. So that's why a car needs to come to the shop to be diagnosed to get the answer. It's another reason we really don't do estimates, because this person could have called and said, I got an intake leak. I think I got a vacuum leak. It's causing a misfire. What's the estimate for that? So I spend time getting all the numbers together. Then they bring me the car and find out it has nothing to even do with the intake. It was just an improperly gapped spark plug. So all that time I did estimating for an intake gasket was completely lost in a waste. So this is going to be like a couple $100 or less. It's just an hour of diagnosis, and actually part of the diagnosis actually fixed the problem. So we got an hour into it, maybe a little more, and the problem solved. This isn't going to be no $5,000 fix. This is going to be a simple fix. They'll be out the door, and they can continue to rack up the miles on this really nice LS400. These things are really nice. I really like them. So if you're curious what kind of tools we use in the shop, or some of the things I talked about in the video today, including the little code reader, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. And if people in your family or friends are asking what they should buy for you for Christmas, send them to our Amazon affiliates link in the description below and say pick something out there. Everything we have listed there is very useful to help you work on cars. Make sure to hit the subscribe button as well, because there's many more updates of things, all kinds of things going on in the shop. Thanks for watching.